Today we're talking the performance of CEOs, maybe even the high performance. I want to welcome in our very special guest, Lucia Annunzio, President and CEO of the Center for High Performance. Welcome back, Lucia.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today, Oliver. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We're looking forward to your insights on the leaders at some of the companies that we talk about a lot from the stock perspective. A nice little change of pace on this Friday. We've also got Kevin Hanks, contributor and host, as well as JB McKenzie, Managing Director of Futures and Forex at TD Ameritrade. So, Lucia, we're going to talk about three companies, or kind of three, maybe four. BlackRock, Starbucks, as well as some airlines. But let's start off with Starbucks first, because this was a huge event that I think captivated basically the nation. There's two black men that were ejected from Starbucks, the response by the company, the training and the closure of stores. What was your takeaway from all that?
I was impressed. The genuine human response. I mean, it's one thing to read a paper where you say the right words. It's another thing to have seen the CEO on television, to see his eyes almost tearing. He actually went to Philadelphia, met with the three gentlemen, and stayed for 3 days, and was interviewed by CNN afterwards, and I happened to see the show, and he was choked up. He felt so badly of what had happened to these three young men, and genuinely felt that it was wrong and shouldn't happen. And not only has he said it, showed it, he's acted on it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in today's world, we have so many negative examples of things that happened, and because of the fear of lawsuits and because of whatever, the humanness of leading is missing.
Yeah.
And he has given a great example of that.
He had a pretty big test right off the back. I mean, he hasn't been there that long, Kevin Johnson, after taking over from Howard Schultz. So is this, this is a big weight that was put on him right off the bat. Mm-hmm. And that being said, the response that, so there you go, April 2017, so just over a year, the response that he put out there, Lucia, is that what you expected? I mean, what did we know from him prior to this?
Well, we knew that he was a collaborative leader. We knew that he wasn't somebody who, that he was someone that understood the people side of business, that he always invested in his employees. But he came through the tech world, and that's why they hired him. But he was the person at Microsoft, for example, who started the program where employees who had an idea could bring it to the board and actually be funded by the company with their new ideas. And he made many young people millionaires. Yeah. And the company, it wasn't just that the people benefited, the company was smart enough to know that we have really bright people here who can come up with new products and ideas, and he started that. So I'm not surprised that he understands the people side of business. Mm-hmm. However, it's been such a long time since we've seen a crisis happen in a company where a leader has handled it right that it was refreshing. I coincidentally teach a course for CFOs at the University of Chicago where we review crisis management, and all of the case studies that I have are negative. And I was so happy to have Starbucks as a case study to say you can do it right, and you can make more money if you do it right. Doing right doesn't mean you're going to lose money. And unfortunately, companies have become so afraid with quarterly pressures that they jump to the wrong answer.
Sure. All right, now that part right there I think is very interesting, which is the being able to do it and still make money. Because it's not often, JB, that you see a company that closes 8,000 stores for a day. And at least so far, we'll find out at least, maybe I think we already did basically find out by the street's reaction to their numbers that this is not really making a dent in terms of how you view the company.
Yeah, I think when you look at it from a trading standpoint, it's more than just, revenues and bottom line profits that you're looking at in some cases. For people, they want to believe in companies. And I think when you look at the retail traders, they trade products that they believe in, stuff that they touch and they feel. And here's an example of a CEO of a popular brand that did the right thing. And in doing so, reinforced, I would say, the beliefs of traders to say, I'm bullish on this product, on this company, and I feel as though they can continue to build it, and they're doing it the right way.
Right. They changed the policy to allow people who hadn't made a purchase to spend time or use the bathroom, which is
tricky.
I just came from New York, and let me tell you that those where the policy is lax, it's tough to want to stay there because it gets packed and it gets wild coming right in the middle of Manhattan. But Kevin, this is a company, let's talk about the company broadly for a sec, because he's had challenges way before this, which is about basically taking a massive growth story and finding somewhere to go next.
Now you're on to where it comes into my world, which is the fact that Starbucks is wrestling with the fact that they are a company that have been priced and has traded like they're a growth stock. And they've kind of stopped growing at the same pace. So what they're trying to do is maintain the allure that they're a growth stock when actually they're starting to become a more mature company where the growth is not the same. They're going to other places and they're doing, they're still trying to grow, but the growth isn't hitting the numbers that they expected to. And that's kind of the problem. Think about this. The stock just yesterday went up for the year, positive in terms of price action for the year. Now, I trade a little bit of Starbucks, so I watch the stock very closely. And this stock has struggled this year, especially around their earnings events. Yeah. They've had some horrible, the last 2 earnings days, they've had some pretty significant sell-offs here.
Slower Chinese growth was the first quarter story.
Exactly right.
Second was basically the same.
And they keep promoting that they're still a growth company, but growth is slowing, and that keeps being a big headwind for them.
Lucia, what did you make of this deal with Nestle, where they're going to be able to essentially sell Starbucks products, single-serve coffees, the bagged beans through their distribution network? So for me, when that news broke, Nestle's got a lot of issues it's got to deal with, so I'm not sure who benefits here.
That's a hard one. I think the other 2 gentlemen could speak more astutely on that one. But I think it goes to his point that they're trying to find growth strategies. Right. I think the reason that they hired him is because he has a tech background. And Nestle doesn't fit into that. They're trying to figure out how are they going to use technology to increase their growth markets? And how is he going to use the people in the company to help him find ways to use his technology background to innovate? I think they understand it's a mature market. I think his selection reflects that. I think his personality reflects that. And I think what hope I have for him is that he understands that what made that company great is that they were a place that cared about people, and that he still wants to do that, and he wants to do it in a way that services his customer better and use technology and mergers like that to experiment, because you have to experiment in today's world to find out what works.
Yeah, Kevin?
I learned very early, I took a seminar when I was at Goldman Sachs, and they said that reputational risk, they literally said in a class, you can cost us more money than you can ever lose trading based on reputational risk. If you heard the reputation of the company, you can never make up that P&L that if you cost us money via reputational risk. They drove that home to all.
One last point on Starbucks here, JB. I want you to get on this, because we talked about that Nestle deal. For me, that seemed like, all right, it's a distribution play, it's a branding. But to Lucia's point, if I think about the tech experience, I feel like I have a more tech-heavy experience when I go into a McDonald's, as they have revamped that business, as we've talked about on here before.
No, absolutely, and you're watching them start trying to evolve. Go to a Starbucks store now, and it's a much different experience than what you had before. The problem with this goes back to other retailers we talked. You can't transform overnight. And they're trying to find the right way. They tried to do it with music. That was one way to do it. Now they're trying to do it with other digital experiences. So I think for them, how can you quickly start to pivot? But again, when you're a trader, you're looking at those bottom line numbers. What I think you saw from this story was the leadership is there. The leadership has also the buy-in of the people. And I mean that from the associate experience and the customers.
All right, let's talk Southwest and some airlines real quickly, because Gary Kelly, the CEO of Southwest, has also had a pretty big issue on his hands. Grounded planes, a death on one of their flights. What did you make of his reaction to this, Lucia?
Once again, I thought he did it right. I thought he immediately came out. Now, Gary is not someone who wears his emotions on his sleeve. He's not someone who looks as emotional or caring. But nonetheless, he looked sincere. He said all the right things. They came from his heart. But he's been at Southwest for a long time, and that's a culture that puts customers first. Herb Kelleher always said that, well, no, actually, employees first. They believe that if you treat your employees well, if you have engaged employees, if you allow your employees to make good decisions, your customers will benefit. And so he is an employee of that institution, that culture, and when he responded in my book exactly the right way.
The video that they uploaded onto YouTube now has about 200,000 views of his statement following this Flight 1380. Kevin, this is a highly competitive area right now, though. And as we've been talking about the potential for a return of price battles between these airlines, Southwest, it can't be good to have multiple groundings again. Has he responded quickly enough? Because after this, you had 2 more incidents. I mean, depending on how you define, not just groundings, but other incidents as well.
Right. You know, my views on this whole thing has been, it's amazing right now where we're at. When's the last time, besides this tragedy that happened at Southwest, it was over 10 years before someone was killed on an American airline, on any U.S. carrier. So planes have become unbelievably safe. And think about what happened really, other than, let's take the human aspect out of it. An engine blew up on a plane and it landed without incident, other than obviously the shrapnel that hurt someone, that killed someone. But it's amazing how this whole industry has gone forward. But that said, I completely agree. The way he handled it was perfect. I thought it was as good as you could possibly do.
It was very emotional, but did he answer the questions about the technology, though, and the...
Well, he answered that they were working on it, that he's giving full cooperation, that he's caring about the family. And what also is important about that incident, different than some of the other ones that we see, is the pilot's response. The pilot immediately handled that correctly. The pilot felt empowered to do the right thing, took charge of the situation, and because of the pilot, that horrible incident that was tragic could have been much more tragic.
Interesting. Now, that becomes back to your point, which is about the emphasis on the employees, where she basically felt that I can make a decision here that's not an easy one, but I'm going to do it. And then that was the right thing to do.
Exactly. But she felt internal permission because of that culture to do the right thing. And many employees in today's world are too afraid to do the right thing. That's why we have so many incidents of bad products going out the market, or, Volkswagen. You're telling me employees didn't know what was happening at Volkswagen? Call me naive, but a whole lot of people knew what was going on. And in the short run, they did very well. But look what happened to that company. Look at the reputational risk.
How do you train employees to constantly use their own brain to do the right thing so a dog doesn't end up in the overhead storage? How simple should that decision should have been?
I think that's a perfect example right there. Look at the 2 companies here, 2 airlines. Completely different experiences, and I think that's one of the main reasons you have Southwest as one of those brands that you are attracted to. You like them as a firm. They care about what's on there. Look, I always joke, when there's a delay, they're the first people to say, look, I don't want you standing here at my desk either. I want to get you on a plane.
But
JB,
JB, that hasn't helped the stock out in the past year, because this, as far as investors see it, is more about pricing, capacity, and carrier lines as well.
But I think with that also, you've seen a change in a little bit of their focus, right? If you listen to their focus in 2018, it's about us first and getting back to basics. Right now, their big move of 18, for the first time ever, is Hawaii. They have one item that they're focusing on in 2018, outside of their own associates.
And Oliver, in all honesty, it doesn't matter how much goodwill you have. If gasoline prices go up and there's price wars, your stock's going to suffer. There's not much you can do about that.
Lucia, wrap things up for us before we run out of time, because within all this, these are all publicly traded companies. Larry Fink, who runs BlackRock, is the biggest investment manager in the world, $3 trillion, or actually I think it's up to like 6 now. He has basically said CEOs need to act this way.
Yes.
Is he sort of a leading figure for this? Now, I think a lot of people notice it from the gun conversation, but even before that, he's talked about the importance of CEO leadership. Let's leave it on Larry Fink. What do you think?
Well, he's my new hero. If he really acts on what he's saying, if he stays true to what he's saying, I believe that companies today have become much too focused on quarterly earnings, are too quick to do the wrong thing because they look good in the short run. In the long run, they suffer. They lose talent, they bleed talent. People don't want to work there. And he's saying, not only do you have to do the right thing, not only do you have to have a long-term strategy, you have to do what's right for society. Jeremy Rifkin, in the end of the 90s, wrote a book called The End of Work. And it didn't get much play. He's a futurist, a brilliant man. And basically he said, we're going to start living in a world where people are going to have less jobs, less opportunity, and unless corporations take a societal position to help out the world so that the customers actually have jobs and money to buy their products, we're going to end up in this world we're in today, where you have so many disenfranchised people. That's what Larry Fink's point is. The reason you have so many disenfranchised people in the world today is because what can you invest in that people feel are safe?
Sure.
How can they secure their future? How can they secure the college for their kids? And I like the fact that he's taking some responsibility for that.
Yeah. All right, Lucia Annunzio, we'll leave it there. Really interesting insight and great analysis, as always, helping us take a closer look at the leaders of the companies we always talk about, as well as Jay McKinsey and Kevin Hanks. Great conversation. Lucia is the president and CEO of the Center for High Performance.